Hey girl, Marissa here. You are listening to the Codependummy podcast. As a young woman, you have been raised, reinforced, and rewarded for putting the needs of others above your own. Now, in your 20s, you're finding yourself exhausted, exasperated, and enveloped in shit relationships, especially the one you have with yourself. Codependency is a way of being where we put the feelings, wants, and needs of others above our own in an unconscious attempt to meet our own feelings, wants, and needs. Sorry to break it to you, sis, but that is not sustainable. This podcast is to help you undo all that so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. Let's get to it. Just gonna stand there and watch me burn. Well, that's alright because I like the way it hurts. Just gonna stand there and watch me cry. That's alright because I love the way you lie. I love the way you lie. Oh, hello, my dear sweet codependummy. Welcome to another episode of DJ CODEPENDUMMY. It's your hostess, mostess, Marissa, and today we will be deconstructing, analyzing, thinking critically about Love the Way You Lie by Eminem and Rihanna, which I just sang you the chorus. What are some common themes touched on in the song that codependents tend to exhibit in toxic relationships like my own in a former relationship? What about songs like this encourage and enable our codependummy ways? And how can we stop relating so much to songs like this? Welcome to episode 87. 87, you guys. 87 episodes. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you who are new, I'm bringing out the welcome mat. And for those of you who have been here from the beginning, I'm bringing out the welcome mat. Welcome, welcome. So glad you're here. I think you all know this, but I am a licensed psychotherapist, a coach, and a former and yet still healing codependummy. Before we get into deconstructing the lyrics to this song and applying them to a former relationship of my own, let's check in, shall we? I'm just gonna adjust my chair. Maybe you need to adjust, maybe stretch. Can everybody stretch if you're in a place where you can just kind of reach your arms up, reach your arms to the side, do some neck rolls. Oh, my neck just cracked. Oh, shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. There we go. Girl, how are you feeling, baby girl? How are you doing, mijita? That means baby girl in Spanish, which I'm not fluent in, but I wanted to call you that. How's your week going? Any residual emotions from a conflict, a disagreement, or negative interaction you're needing to acknowledge? Any boundaries you sense you're needing to create, or limits you need to reestablish? It's an unfortunate reality of boundaries. We tend to have to create and recreate them over and over. I will share that I started with a new therapist 2 weeks ago. I might have already shared, I can't remember, but it was such a good decision. She is a great fit, and I'm really looking forward to my work with her. It's an investment, definitely investing in my therapy. And I was with my former therapist, a male, an elder male, and 2 years we've been working together. I've shared about him off and on the podcast, and I sensed a couple months ago that he really got me where he could. And then I sensed a need for a change. And I'm so grateful that I noticed that and honored that. So I'm curious if there are any changes you're needing to make in your own life. And checking complete. So friendly reminder of just how vital and important and vitally important it is to check in and keep checking in with yourself. Building that consciousness that is arguably the opposite of codependency. That's what check-ins do. And they help us become more aware of ourselves rather than so invested in other people. Thumbs up. Let's transition to our analysis, shall we? For those of you who are unfamiliar with this segment, DJ CODEPENDUMMY / the Codependummy playlist. I was toying with different titles in previous segments. I take lyrics which are drenched in codependency, these songs that just reek of codependency, and I apply them to, thus far I've applied them to I apply them to codependent experiences from my own life, and thus far I've applied them to a former relationship I had in my early 20s. My goal is to ultimately help you feel not so alone, desperate, and deranged in your own codependency, because I was just like you at one point, and I still am, and it's a work in progress, but just don't want you to feel so alone. And if you're curious, you can look back to episodes from July of 2021. I did a 3-part segment on Olivia Rodrigo's song, Favorite Crime. And again, in December of 2021, I analyzed Love Me by the Cardigans. 2 great codependent songs. And you'll hear the first 2 chapters of this relationship I had with an ex-boyfriend. It's funny how I did that in July and then December, and now it's August. So it takes me about 6 months to revisit that relationship because it was painful. It is painful. Even sitting down to record this, I was like, I do not want to record this. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to revisit it. It's painful. So again, ultimate goal to have you not feel so alone. So thus here I am. And there are previous episodes you can listen to catch up as needed. And I will put them in the show notes for easy reference and a link to this song, Love the Way You Lie by Eminem and Rihanna. The lens we are perceiving this episode through is from Melody Beattie's work in Codependent No More. And 4 themes she describes in toxic codependent relationships and their breakups. Here are the 4 themes. I'll get into more detail as we continue. Withdrawal, that is seen in toxic relationships. Violent endings, violent fights, so high conflict. Manipulation, and oh no, where's my 4th? I have 4, but I only have 3 here listed. So we will get to, let's see, manipulation. Oh, intolerance. I'm sorry. I'm just going over my notes and I must have lost. Intolerance is the first. So intolerant of being apart. Codependent. So we will be intertwining in our analysis the lyrics, the themes, and my former relationship. Some background on the song. It was released in 2010 and was met with some controversy as it depicted a male and female relationship, and they were engaged in a toxic, codependent bond that involved domestic violence. I know personally of academics who analyzed the song, and if you're interested, you can read certain blogs about the controversy and underlying message the song had. I will say that as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old codependent who was deeply enmeshed in my emotionally toxic and abusive relationship with my then boyfriend, I loved this song. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I related to it because I love the way he lied and I like the way it burned. And it was just fucked up and twisted and dramatic and addictive and demoralizing and shameful and all of that wrapped up. And so the song resonated, and back then, and I still do, I just listen to it on repeat all the time because I loved it. Some background to our timeline. At the conclusion of the last DJ CODEPENDUMMY narrative, I shared how my ex and we had broken up for the 3rd or 4th time, and it was around April of 2010. At that time of the breakup, we had been dating off and on since June of 2009. So about 10 months of toxicity. We had both cheated and both lied, and we were both codependent on each other, taking turns being the pursuer and the pursued. Let's look at the first lyric, which is from the chorus, which I already sang, so I'm not going to sing again, where Rihanna says, "Just going to stand there and watch me burn." Well, that's all right, because I like the way it hurts. This ties into themes of a violent ending or violent fighting and withdrawal. I liked the way it hurts. It hurt so good. That relationship, it hurt so good. And at that time, we had an emotionally, not physically violent ending via text. I confronted him about something I'd seen on social media that completely contradicted our relationship. He put that he was single. And I was like, you're not single. We're together. I recall he initially apologized. And I say that with a question. Maybe it was like I'm sorry, but, so not necessarily a true apology. And I recall further challenging him, and then he turned mean, called me a bitch. And I told him, like, look, it's over. I'm turning off my phone. Please don't contact me and leave me the fuck alone. And he really just stood there and watched me burn. But it was all right because I liked the way it hurt. I sincerely did. I was addicted to him, to our relationship, to the drama, and to find myself through his lens of approval and love and want for me. In the days and weeks that followed, I did go through withdrawal. And the symptom I recall most vividly, well, symptoms are restlessness and agony. Restless, since I slept poorly for days and weeks after that breakup. I remember laying in bed, crying about our breakup, and unable to stop the replay in my mind of the good, the bad, and the ugly times that was our relationship. And I remember I would wake up early, right? So I would think about him, cry about him, going to sleep. And then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and just boom, I was met with thoughts of him. I checked my phone to see if he had texted or called me, since that was a pattern of his previously. I'd worry he was with another girl at that exact moment, especially his ex-girlfriend. And I dreaded that by not hearing from him, that he was moving on. My room at the time, I was going to UC Santa Barbara and it overlooked the ocean. And I remember waking up, hearing the waves crashing, and I was just obsessing over him. And the restlessness beyond the poor sleep was also evident in my right foot. I would be laying in bed, I would be singing in class, I would be on the bus, because I kind of got my license around that time. I would be eating with friends, and my right foot was just anxiously shaking all the time. So here I am, poor sleep, obsessing over him, met with thoughts of him. When I woke up, and I remember I'm like hearing the waves crash, and I can also hear the rub of my foot on the sheet, just like just all the time. I could not stop just shaking my foot, because I thought about him constantly. It was constant. And I remember, oh my gosh, he worked for a big corporate bank. So whenever I saw an ATM, I was like, oh. Or I'd listen to a Kid Cudi song, and we both liked Kid Cudi. And I was like, oh. Or I saw a model of his car. Oh. It was just all the time. It was constant. I did not need to reach too far into the world to be reminded of him. And I was reminded of him all the time. So restless and agony. Agony, according to Google, is extreme physical or mental suffering, the final stages of a difficult or painful death. And I was just gonna stand there and watch me burn. Well, that's all right, because I like the way I was burning, I was dying, I was agonizing, and I cried about him all the time. All the time. My face was fucked up because my eyes were so puffy since I was crying about him all the time. I had an administrative assistant job that summer. We didn't have a lot happening at my desk. And I think I stopped wearing makeup because it didn't seem necessary for the job. And I was also crying so much in the bathroom during breaks. I spent hours of my shift crying in the bathroom. It was the perfect job to continue to burn in this relationship. It was death, and I felt like I had lost. It was me for 10 months versus all the other girls in his life, and I had lost to these girls. I was not able to win him for myself, and I was crying, I was distraught, I was in agony, and I declined social invites. I stayed home. I watched sad movies. I listened to sad music. I ate sad food. It's not taking care of myself. And I was agonizing. But I loved the way it hurt. I had a great story to tell people because there was so much drama. I didn't have to worry so much about what I was doing with my life. Like, I had just graduated early. I graduated early. I got a head start to figure out whatever I wanted to do, but had no idea what my future entailed. And I love the way it hurt because it was familiar. Unrequited love during elementary, middle, and high school was the norm. And I think growing up, I yearned for my parents' love. And it was an all too familiar present yearning with him, and yet historical yearning that I'd experienced throughout my life. And I really, on some level, I loved the way it hurt. Second lyric, second part of the chorus. Well, that's all right, because I love the way you lie. I love the way you lie. Let's take a pause for some hydration. Everybody, hydration break. Tea, water, soda, coffee. Everyone take a sip. Here we go. I love the way he lied. This touches on themes of manipulation in codependent relationships. Manipulation meaning, oh, I don't know, I did not define violent ending and withdrawal, or violent fighting and withdrawal. So violent fights and endings, explosive, vitriolic, attempting to provide the most damage to a partner in retaliation in a relationship. And withdrawal is to undergo withdrawal. So loss of appetite, restlessness, lethargy, disorientation, agony, similar to withdrawing from a substance like caffeine or cocaine or social media or a person. And I apologize, I did not define that prior. So manipulation, control or influence of a person or situation through cleverly, unfairly, or unscrupulous means. I was like, what? Okay, I've heard unscrupulous, but having or showing no moral principles, dishonest and unfair. So I love the way he lied, but I lied too. While I was technically attempting to withdraw from him, I was getting a metaphorical hit multiple times a day because I did something bad. In the previous episode on this relationship, I shared how I accessed his Excel document that had, well, it was titled passwords. And that's how I found out he was going to cheat on me with another girl by logging onto his Facebook. And when I confronted him about that, and we stayed together, that was earlier that year. And when we broke up in April, I never mentioned to him, oh, by the way, I have your passwords. I didn't have it. I looked at the Excel sheet and then I recalled some of them. So I didn't have access to everything, which is a good thing. So 2 things. Didn't take either of us that long after we broke up. First, it didn't take him too long to start reaching out to me via text, snail mail, and I think email. I think he was reaching out to me in multiple attempts. And it didn't take me too long to not respond to any of his texts, letters, or emails. But I was keeping tabs on him all day, every day by logging into his Facebook account, which I'm not sure if that's a federal offense, but it's some type of offense. I have later apologized to him for being dishonest. We will get to that chapter eventually where he and I grew up and matured and took accountability for what we've both done. And yet I don't think to this day he knows as much detail to what I did do as I'm divulging here. So if he's listening, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I love the way he lied, and he did. I remember a couple examples. So he did send me a letter of apology in the mail, along with some earrings that I left at his place the last time I was visiting, which was so sweet. It was so sweet. It was apologetic. It was romantic. I was not expecting it. I remember I was involved in a lawsuit, which I'll have to talk about because my codependency was an integral part of that. but I thought it was something about the lawsuit. And I remember opening it, and it was a sincere, kind acknowledgement of our relationship and what he'd done wrong. And I also, at that time, I had challenged myself not to talk to him for 3 months or something like that. Like, just don't, like, no responding. So I got his letter, I read it, I wanted to reach out to him, and decided, no, I'm not going to immediately respond despite the sincerity. And then the next day, or maybe a day after, I logged on to one of his accounts, and he had been talking to, I think, an ex-girlfriend. And I was like, oh. And I remember I went home and I ripped up the letter and I threw it away. I was like, fuck him. Right. But mind you, he had no idea this was going on. So manipulation on both ends. I also recall I was at work, my administrative assistant job, and it was nearly impossible for me to not compulsively log on and keep tabs on him. And I remember I was like checking his accounts, and he sent me a heart text. I was like, oh, okay, does he know? Does he know I'm logging into his Facebook account and literally defriending certain women so he can't magically talk to them? And he didn't. But yeah, again, like he's reaching out, I'm not responding, and yet mostly aware of it's not like at that time, and I think to this day, social media is not reality. And so I did not have a definitive awareness of where he was, what he was doing, and who he was with. But I was able to check or corroborate material, right? Like, was he being genuine when he sent this letter? No, because he's talking to girls. Was he sincerely missing me? Well, no, because he's, I don't know, going out with this group of people and that girl. And I also remember a third example when he did send me a very long text where he described being in the emergency room, and he missed me so much, and he wishes I was there. And I was like, oh my God, is he dying? And I didn't respond. I must have waited a couple days and was able to see like a Facebook message or a post that he had, I believe it was appendicitis. And so I was like, bro, you're fine. So manipulation on both ends. And yet I could not stop. I loved the way he lied. And I loved catching him in a lie, right? I had all the reasons we had broken up all the times before, which had all persisted. His ex-girlfriend was still in his life. Other girls were still in his life. Dishonesty was still integral in these interactions. And yet I kept checking and checking and checking. And I was like a detective. I loved figuring it out. I loved the high of hearing from him and his sweet letter, and then finding out he was still talking to his ex. I was like, gotcha. There was absolutely no trust and a sincere desire to prove there was no trust. I loved the way he lied. It was creative, it was fun to investigate, and it was commendable. The lengths he would go to say one thing and do another. I remember I almost admired him and his dual commitment to be with me and maintain the aspects of his life that compromised our relationship. I was like, damn, you go, ex-boyfriend. You go on with your bad self, because I'm going to figure it out. I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to figure it out. And we're just going to maintain this manipulative, toxic relationship that, despite everything that's wrong with it, is ultimately serving you and I, right? Him and I, because we're still together. We were still together. We weren't, right? I wasn't talking to him, but I was just as enmeshed as I'd been when I was with him, if not more. So I sincerely loved the way he lied. Third lyric. This is from Eminem. He's rapping in the song. And he sings, I suffocate, and right before I'm about to drown, she resuscitates me. This touches on themes of intolerance. In this relationship, intolerance meaning unable to endure separations, even in conflict. Previously, he had demonstrated intolerance with stalking behavior. He had shown up to my work. Was it just my work? And it wasn't like stalking on New Year's. He just went to the same rave I was going to, which he introduced me to raves. But yeah, we really had sincerely both been intolerant of being separated for long amounts of time. In this lyric, Eminem is demonstrating his own codependence. The character is demonstrating his own codependence in that he is dying and Rihanna saves him, right? Total dependence on her, on this girl, metaphorically, to revive him if and when he's struggling. And during this breakup, we'd probably gone a full 5 to 6 weeks with radio silence on my end. He had attempted to contact me, and I'd stayed firm in not responding, which was fueled by my having some semblance of knowing what he was up to by having access to his accounts. And to outward appearances, I was moving on. I don't recall letting others know what I was doing. I don't think my sisters knew. I don't think my closest friends knew. And so this was my sole endeavor while I was working. My birthday was around this time. We celebrated my birthday. I think I was trying to hang out with other guys, futile efforts, but it looked like I was moving on. And I was posting a lot. I was posting a lot on Facebook, which we were not blocked from each other. And I remember on my birthday, this guy I knew from my boxing gym, he put me on his shoulders, and I was wearing a tube top dress. I had my Lady Gaga like goggle sunglasses on. I was at a Drake concert, and I had a headband around my head, kind of like a crown, and I looked so cool. And that was definitely an effort on my part, to demonstrate and show to him all the fun and excitement and the fulfilled life I was leading without him. So he was dying, and I'm dying, but also externally moving on. One night, 5 or 6 weeks after we broke up, oh no, he showed up another time. Okay, he showed up in the fall. He did go to that rave, which was like a surprise-ish, kind of a surprise show up. And then, yeah, he also showed up at my work. So he had a history of showing up. 5 or 6 weeks after we'd stopped talking, I hear on my window. It's like, what? What time is it? I looked at my phone, and maybe it was 2 or 3 in the morning. And I remember moving my blinds, and there's this spotlight from our neighbors shining down, and there is the shadow of my ex-boyfriend's face. It's right there. And I was like, oh, I knew it. I knew it. And this just came to me. I had thought about creating a poster that said his name, ex-boyfriend, please leave me alone, and putting it on my window. But I was like, no, that's too dramatic. All my 10 roommates, I had 10 roommates at the time, they all walk by that side of the house as we get to the front. It's too dramatic. I don't want to do that. And yet it was apropos, because there he was. And I think he motioned to me to come out, which I did. And I remember like walking out, I was in my pajamas, maybe like pajama pants, like a big oversized sweatshirt. And I was like, you are so predictable. You are so predictable. This is so typical. You would show up like this. And yet I resuscitated him. He had been right. I didn't have to go outside. I did not have to go outside. And I did. So I went outside, and he had been drinking. He wasn't drunk, but he had been drinking, and he wanted to talk. I was like, oh, okay. So we sat on the deck, which overlooked the ocean. I lived in this beautiful home, and the waves are splashing. It's pitch black out. Besides the lights from our neighbors, I think all my roommates were asleep. And he opened up with how difficult the last few weeks had been for him, right? Appendicitis. I was like, oh no. And work and life, and how much he missed me. I sensed I had time to express how hurt I felt the last time we broke up, and how insecure I felt with him, in our relationship with him talking to other girls, especially his ex-girlfriend. And we talked and we talked and we talked and we talked. And then I think we went for a walk and the sun's coming up. And yeah, I think he told me about other things, and I thought to myself, I already know that because you posted it or you messaged someone about it on your Facebook account. So all the reasoning for why we broke up and why I couldn't talk to him anymore crumbled. I had won. Right? Here he was. Weeks after we'd broken up, he'd driven over an hour to see me. It's a semi-long distance relationship. And he was missing me. And he needed me. And he wanted me. Never mind what I've been telling my sisters, my parents, my friends, random strangers, coworkers about him and what he'd done and what he'd put me through. He was back and I was in his arms because, truth be told, it was intolerable for me at that time to be separated from him. And it was intolerable for him, right? He had to see me. He couldn't take not seeing me anymore. And I think he mentioned too, I think he'd been by like the weekend before, but I was home. I had been visiting my parents. So I don't know if he'd driven by or knocked on my window, but there had been, he was yearning. He was yearning for me. And we hung out the whole day. I think we had sex. I think we had unprotected sex because, it's not like he's been banging a bunch of, he'd been having sex with other women in the interim. I didn't actually know that because, yeah, I didn't know everything. And I think we got pizza and I don't even know. We just hung out all day. And he had left under the impression that I would reach out to him on that 3-month mark. So he didn't know I wasn't talking to him for 3 months. I knew I wasn't talking to him for 3 months, but then I told him, I just really wanted this time to be away, to not communicate with you. So yeah, it was like sometime like in June. I'll reach out to you. So he's resuscitated. I love the way he lies. I like the way it burns. And we're back on pretty much. Despite the time we've been apart, I was still all consumed by him. What are his thoughts? What are his feelings? What are his needs? How can I meet them to fulfill my own? And the last lyric, Eminem describes and says, then we fall back into the same patterns, same routine. And this lyric involves aspects of manipulation, withdrawal, and intolerance all together. I remember he stopped by again to drop off a gift while I was working that I received when I got back. I kept stalking him electronically by logging into his accounts. And we continued to not communicate and communicate. And I held on to stories that he told me about missing me and conversations he had had with people who knew we were together, because not everyone knew we were together. He hid it from random people. And their reactions when they found out we'd broken up. And he was like, oh yeah, like this person, like she said I made a big mistake, and this guy like said we were so good together, and I ran to this mutual friend of ours, and she told me this great story about a time that I had shared with her about my ex-boyfriend, and he just made it sound so special. He made me sound so special. And it was a sense of victory. I keep going back to that, but an aspect of my codependency is just really wanting that approval, affection, and attention from another person. And there tends to be, not always, but a competitive piece to it. I remember in high school, I liked this guy, and he was, yeah, there was always another girl. And I was like, challenge accepted. And yeah, just really wanting to be special and prized by especially men, and also my friends, my girl friends. I wanted to be their best friend. I wanted to be the one that they reached out to first, or I wanted some monopoly in their world. So we fell back into the same pattern, same routine. And long story short, the day that I had determined that I would reach out to him, I moved. So I moved from the college town-ish area where I was into Santa Barbara proper. And I called him that day, and we were like back on, like no red light, no yellow light, like green says go, and we were back on. So same pattern, same routine. I was lying, still keeping tabs on him. He was lying, still talking to other people. And we were back together. So this was around like a year of us being together. And we'll end with that narrative for now. I can talk about what it was like. We got back together, and we were only together, I think, for another 5 weeks. It was so bad. We were sincerely back together. Just the toxicity and the hurt and the attempts to control, attempts to manipulate. Yeah, we'll do that with another song. I have to think of this song. I'm sure I'll find one, because I have all these codependent songs, which I love so much. And in conclusion, right, reflecting on these lyrics and this song, why is relating to this song problematic? These lyrics and the relationship I had with this man boy, they are not healthy. I love the way he lied. I like the way it burned. He was dying, and I resuscitated him, and we fell into old patterns easily. But that is not love. Love is not supposed to be filled with burning and crying and lying and loving those three things in addition to the person that you're with. This song normalized and romanticized the torment, suffering, and agony that I endured while I was with him. I remember resonating entirely with this song, and I was not paying attention to myself and what this relationship was doing to me and my other relationships. I was sleeping poorly. I was over drinking. I was binge eating. I was anxious AF, restless, and not being honest with anyone about what I was doing, as like specifically with his passwords. Because I was so embarrassed and ashamed and out of control. I would say, okay, Marissa, like no more. Like, this is fucked up. You can't keep doing this. The evidence is clear. Stop logging in to his accounts. And within seconds, I just, like, my hands would hit the keyboard and like type in a website, type in the password, and like, boom, I'm in. I was out of control. Like 3 times a day. Okay, Marissa, stop. Marissa, you're gonna stop. Marissa, stop. You're not gonna log in anymore. You're not gonna do this anymore. Stop it. Typing it in. And yeah, we were both out of control. So this is problematic because I wasn't present with my roommates while we graduated from college. I felt disconnected from my sisters and my parents, and I wasted hours stalking him online while neglecting to figure out what I needed to do for housing, for graduate school, for finding another job, as my current job was temporary. And I was neglecting to really be there for others. I was not there for other people. In my codependency with him, I was careless, distracted, and neglecting of others. To challenge these lyrics, okay, if I'm burning, I need a partner who will go grab some water or a fire extinguisher and put it out rather than standing there. And also, if I'm burning, I need that to come from an event, an interaction, an experience outside of my romantic relationship. My most intimate relationship cannot be burning me. Like, no burning from a partner. I don't want to get used to, like, or sustain being burnt. This is a joke, but I like feeling tan, but not burnt, right? I don't like being burnt. I like room temperature. I put on sunblock. I do not, we do not want to get used to or like being burned in our intimate relationships. If I'm crying, I need my partner to listen rather than watch, which is described in this lyric. Like, you're just gonna stand there and watch me cry. No, if I'm crying, you need to come. I need to be held. I need to be listened to. I need to be heard. That's what we need. And I don't want to get used to, love, or maintain being lied to. I love honesty. I love authenticity in myself and in others. I don't want to resuscitate a partner. I want us both to mutually take care of ourselves. And, right, if we're in an airplane, we have to put our mask on first before we help someone else. So, encouraging, cheerleading, motivating, and yet not resuscitating. And I definitely want to create healthy patterns with a partner, but not those that we fall into that are toxic, harmful, and deteriorate our relationship and our relationship with others. And I hope you agree with all the challenging to those lyrics too. Questions for you. First, how do you relate to these lyrics? Second, where in your life are you burning and liking the way it hurts? 3, where in your life are you crying and others are simply watching? 4th, do you have a relationship or relationships where you love being lied to? And if so, how come? How come you love being lied to? 5th, what's familiar about these relationships from previous dating relationships to those in your family? And 6, how can you start to work towards no longer tolerating burning, crying, and lying in your relationships? The goal of this segment is to deconstruct these lyrics, be curious about how they encourage our codependency, critically think about them, and do our best not to relate to such songs, TV shows, and other content that lead us to a miserable codependent life. Hope you don't feel so alone in your codependency. And that is the end. So thank you for being here. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share the show. We need more reviews on Spotify. If you can add one, I would appreciate that. And you can go to codependummy.com we have the free self-validation challenge available to help you validate your goddamn self. We have the Confiding Codependummy. It's 30 days of journaling prompts for a less codependent and more conscious you. $30. So $1 a prompt. Also, there's a way to donate to the show on PayPal. You can click the link on the website. I believe it's on the homepage and also on the contact page. And my email is up there as well, marissa@codependummy.com, to holla at your girl. Let me know if you're interested in working through your codependency one-on-one. And I am rooting for you. And I will see you next week. Hey girl, It's Marissa again. I'm not like a regular podcaster, I'm a cool podcaster, right? Thank you for listening and staying till the end. You can find me on Instagram at Therapy with Marissa. Email me, marissa@codependummy.com. Check out codependummy.com for more information on the show. And baby girl, a subscribe, rating, and review would be much appreciated. Till next time, I want you to remember, if you are feeling unseen, I see you. If you are feeling unheard, I hear you. And if you think that you don't matter, know that you matter to me. I want you to go out there so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. And now, the disclaimer. Girl, this is not therapy and I am not your therapist. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regards to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, publisher, or guests are rendering any legal, clinical, or other professional service. If you want or need a professional, please find one.